Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another one of IFA's webinars. My name is Spencer Brignac, and I'm with the International Franchise Association. Today's presentation is part of IFA's 2021 Economic Outlook webinar series, based around the newly released 2021 Economic Report on franchising, and will focus on the business services sector. Two quick notes before we begin. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available later this evening at community.franchise.org. And if you have any questions today for our speakers, please add them to the question box and we will address them at the end. And before I go any further, I'd like to thank this afternoon's sponsor, Answer Connect, for their support and introduce Karen Booz. She is the Director of Business Development, and she's going to give us a little bit more information about Answer Connect. So Karen.
Thank you, Spencer. It's a pleasure to be here today. Answer Connect has been remote since 2007 and is very familiar with working remotely. And the reason I bring that up is because 2020 did not change the way that we work. And we were able to assist many businesses and franchises with their communication. We were and continue to be very grateful to be in a position to assist companies when the world changed. And as we move into the future, Answer Connect would like to be your option and potential solution when you outsource resources. We want to help you stay engaged and move forward with opportunities. We know that today's consumers are more informed than ever before, so when they take time to call, companies had better answer the phone. Everyone has a phone, but not everyone should be answering the phone. So when you spend marketing dollars to grow your business and you cannot answer the phone, you also cannot afford to miss any calls or opportunities, nor should you answer the phone with a hey or hold on. Answer Connect is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to support new business, current clients, or urgent calls, and we'll send you messages immediately. In addition to taking calls, we can set appointments and follow up with potential clients via fill forms and make outbound calls for reinvigoration campaigns. We integrate with many of today's popular CRMs, thus taking advantage of technology and taking one more thing off your franchise's list to do. Answer Connect, our only purpose is here to assist in the economic and overall recovery of the franchise industry coming out of the pandemic, out of 2020 and entering 2021 by offering our professional expertise. Our expectations for 2021 are to continue to work closely with our franchisors and franchisees to build scripts that will prioritize their business needs while also maintaining franchisors' brand consistency. So you'll never miss a call, you'll never miss new business. Answer Connect is here to help grow your business while you make any needed operational changes and adjust to the new normal. Remember, we are familiar with working anywhere because we have since 2007, and we work in 8 different states in the US, Canada, and the UK. So in closing, let Answer Connect help you work in your business so that you can work on your business as we move into 2021. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Karen. So today's webinar, the purpose of which is to give you an overview of the report findings for the business services sector. And then you will hear from your peers within the sector on where they see the franchising economy going and how they are working to come out of this stronger than ever. For a high-level overview of the full report, you can view the recording of a webinar recorded on May 18th. It was our series kickoff webinar, and it's available on community.franchise.org. Here are a few key points from that webinar. FranData predicts that by year end, franchising will have recorded nearly 2019 levels in most metrics, and that includes business growth, employment, economic outlook, and contribution to the GDP. Franchising is expected to experience the highest upswing of franchise sales since the last recession, and the business services sector is certainly going to contribute to that prediction. Predictions for the businesses services sector are: franchise establishments in this sector are expected to grow at a rate of 2.3% in 2021 to over 110,000 establishments. While employment and economic output in the sector declined in 2020, employment is projected to increase through 2021 by 14% to a total of 670,000 employees. In addition, the domestic output is expected to increase by 13.7% this year to almost $106 billion. These are great predictions for this sector and a lot to look forward to. So on that note, I'd like to introduce the business service sector's professionals who have kindly joined us today to talk a little bit more about their perspective on the franchise economy as a whole within this sector. So today we have three speakers: IFA's chair and CEO and president of Fast Signs International, Catherine Monson; Harvey Holmesy, VP of Franchise Systems for Express Services; and Sean Manning, CEO and founder of Payroll Vault Franchising. Thank you all for joining us, and I'm going to hand things over to Catherine to get us started. Catherine.
Fantastic. Thank you, Spencer. And let me also say thank you to Karen and Answer Connect. It is always valuable to have sponsors that are supporting the IFA. So thank you very much. I have been in franchising, I like to say, more than 20 years, because when I say this is my 41st year, you can realize I'm really old hag. And for as much money as I spend on anti-aging products, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Fast Signs is prior to the pandemic, I would say 99.999% B2B business. We sell signage and visual graphics to business people, small businesses, mid-sized businesses, etc. A shift we made in the pandemic was also to go to some business to consumer products, but still, even with that, 98% of our business last year is B2B. And that's why we're here today, is to talk about how we think the business services sector is going to do in 2021. So Harvey Holmesy, if you would do me a favor and talk a little bit about yourself and your business.
You bet. Thank you, Catherine. So welcome to everyone who's with us today. I am with Express Employment Professionals. We are a staffing franchise headquartered in Oklahoma City. We have about 850 plus offices across the world, predominantly in North America. We provide part-time, full-time, flexible staff at all levels to all different types of clients. Basically, we are a B2B, or our franchisees are B2B. They are providing people or workers to companies that need workers. That's how they feed themselves, and that's how they continue to grow. Glad to be here.
And Sean Manning, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Thanks, Catherine, and welcome everybody. Yes, Sean Manning with Payroll Vault Franchising. We are a payroll service franchise model, and we have about 60 locations across the country, primarily servicing small business owners. And yeah, it's really been an interesting time, because not only are we in payroll services, but we've really kind of transitioned more into that workforce management resources that businesses really need today, especially small businesses, in that consulting aspect. And plenty of years, I think about 30 years of supporting small businesses in both my accounting firm and my payroll service industry. So excited to share my thoughts on, historical events like this, and then see where we're headed in the future. I have some good optimism for the next couple of years.
Well, thank you very much. We got a bunch of questions we're going to go through, but before I say that, I want to say great things about both companies, Payroll Vault and Express Employment. I am the benefactor or the beneficiary of being on both of their companies' email lists. In other words, when they send information to customers and prospects, I get it. And I think you guys need to get on those too. And let me tell you why. The quality of the content that I get from both of their email newsletters to customers and prospects is right on good stuff. The articles are great. The stuff that Payroll Vault has sent out has been amazing. The things about being the best workplace that comes from Express and management ideas. So I just have to tell you guys, I love getting your emails every time I do. So first question up, and Harvey, this time I'm going to start with you. Next question, I'm going to start with Sean. How do you personally view the outlook, the economic outlook for the business services sector, and more importantly, specifically for Express?
Well, it's actually amazing. It's a great outlook. While we are a very normal company as far as 2020, and we were down for part of that, we ended the year up and over the year before, and 2021 off to a bang. Yeah, it's been amazing. Clients are hiring people. Clients want us. So as far as Express is concerned, great outlook. Jobs are coming back. They went away for a while, but they're coming back. So I think the outlook personally is we're all still here. That's amazing and great. And we're not going anywhere in the future as far as the outlook or the economy looks like. It's all upbeat and great.
Fantastic. And Sean, from your standpoint, both for the whole business services sector and for Payroll Vault, what is your feeling about the economic outlook for 2021?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's extremely positive. I think right now, outsourced services are more valuable than ever. We're moving at such a fast pace and trying to gather information so quickly. To have good resources available to businesses is extremely important. We're working 2 to 3 times the pace we normally would just to support business owners in the kind of advancement of business. So we're seeing that trend. So there's definitely a very positive impact to the B2B services, but in the long run too, I think there's some good positivity in business. We've never seen the amount of resources available to help a recovery, with especially in the payroll related fields, right? With credits, with loans, with the change in managing your team, remote work environments. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity, I think, for businesses to adapt and leverage those resources so they can move quickly in a time of recovery that's going to be very important over the next 2 years. And I look at this year as a 1-year period, but the recovery period is probably a 2-year period. And so we need to be thinking about how we're going to transform in the next probably 24 months.
Excellent. And from a Fast Signs perspective, we had what we would say is a very good year last year. The great news is we very quickly, before the federal government and state governments deemed signage essential, we taught our franchisees how to pass an audit and be an essential business. So even though we were down 12% March of last year and 30% April of last year, we ended the year only down 2.2%, which is amazing. In a typical year, 20% of our volume overall, our franchisee sales are for what we might call mass gathering signage. Now, I never used the word mass gathering until COVID, right? But we typically, our franchisees typically do a lot of signage and visual graphics for conventions, conferences, festivals, sporting events, all those kinds of things. And so the fact that we were only down 2.2% in a year where we were not doing any mass gathering signage and visual graphics starting in the middle of March is really, really phenomenal. And as I look at the world, as I look at the United States, I think there's huge pent-up demand. I know that the moment concerts are available in Dallas, I'm buying tickets even if I don't like the band because I miss concerts so much. And so I think there are so many people like me who have this pent-up demand, and that is going to help all employers, and us B2B facing businesses are going to benefit from that with the customers that we help and assist. So next question, Sean, you're going to be first up on this one. How are your franchisees responding? What are you doing to keep them engaged and moving forward with these good opportunities coming up?
Gosh, I got huge inspiration from our franchisees this past year, and not only ones that we awarded in 2019, but especially those that we awarded in 2020. They gave motivation to me. They really, dug their heels in and really embraced what they needed to do to be successful as a business owner, and develop their team. So we had a tremendously positive approach with our franchisees and our team in general, which I think was outstanding. It was, like I said, very motivational. But I think it was due to the fact that there was the highest level of collaboration, communication, public education. All of those things really combined together to really give us all confidence that we're here to help small businesses We're kind of in a surreal place because we saw growth last year as a brand, but we saw challenges of our clients that we were serving. And so it was really important for us to kind of educate ourselves so we can help them in this recovery process. So, and I see that trend continuing. Catherine, especially kind of, that collaboration effect. I think it's all trained us to be better collaborators and communicators. And I think that's going to have a compounding effect in our business model moving forward. So I'll hand it over to you, Harvey. What do you think?
Well, I appreciate that. And I want to split it in two because you asked us, Catherine, what are our franchisees doing? What have they done? And what have we done as a franchisor? So I want to start with the franchisee. That's the owner. That's who has made it and has succeeded in spite of whatever you want to call it, shutdown, no gathering, pandemic, whatever it is. This is their livelihood. This is how they put food on their table. This is how they send their children to college. This is how they secure their retirement. They did not stop. They were told to go home. They were told to shut down. They followed all state rules. They did what they were supposed to do. They sheltered in place, but they had computers. They had laptops. They continued to make virtual sales calls, to do virtual interviews, to do everything they needed to do to make sure that clients that were still open were able to have the people they needed. Workers are essential. So it made all of our franchise owners essential for the entire pandemic year. Didn't stop. They actually did things for their communities that were continually amazing. Anything they could do to give back to their community during 2020, that's what our franchisees were doing. Not only were they part of the community, they were the supporter of it and making sure that it was there. Their doors were always open virtually. And so they knew, their workers knew they could go there for work, even if it was virtual. Their clients knew I can call them all the time I need to do, all the times I need. From a headquarters standpoint, Catherine, you said you've been in franchising for 20 plus years. I've been for 30 plus years. So I don't know, do the math there, right? We did things in 2020 that I never, ever thought as a franchisor we would actually do. We put together several care packages for all the 800 plus franchises and sent them power bars, trinkets and toys and things. There were a group of franchisees that couldn't find toilet paper. We sent them toilet paper. It was the way to keep things going and everyone doing their jobs. One of the bigger things we did was for a couple of months, we actually lowered their what they had to pay as far as their royalty back to headquarters. They needed money to keep going. We didn't take it away from them. So an encouraging way to make sure that they were always there. It didn't hurt anyone. It helped everyone stay open and continue to grow. From a franchisee point, they kept doing it. From a franchisor side, we kept doing it.
Thank you. And then when I think about our Fast Signs franchisees, there's no question, and I know this is for all of you that are watching this webinar, 2020 was a terrifying year, particularly if you were a business owner and you were told you had to close, right? Or your customers had to close, right? So there was deep fear, deep concern, deep anxiety. We quickly moved, we've done, since I've been here, every 4 to 6 weeks, now it's video, used to be telephone, but what we call Connect with Catherine conference call, a network-wide call. And we quickly, on the day of the shutdown, went to weekly Connect with Catherine's. And that allowed us to be giving our franchisees not just motivation, but also tactical, specific things that they needed to do to get through this, whether it's how do you apply for an EIDL loan, or how do you apply for a PPP loan, or how do you be deemed essential if you get audited by a local health inspector, down to what are the kinds of new products and services. So that weekly cadence was really, really powerful. Then we recorded it, posted a link just to the franchisees, and then edited out any franchisee specific confidential stuff. So if we were saying to our franchisees, you need to furlough employees, the most important thing is to have the business survive so you can employ more people in the future, rather than have the business close and not employ anybody, right? So we would take that part out of the recording and then post the employee versions on a place where employees could get them. But then we set up a covidsuccess@fastlines.com email address, and every time a franchisee had a success story, they sent it in. I then put that success story in the Connect with Catherine so that other franchisees got the idea. So it was a franchisee of ours who got an idea, not just to offer graduation signs for kids who didn't get to have a graduation ceremony, but to go talk to the school district. And so the first time one of our franchisees did that, they got a $12,000 order. So then I'm sharing that on that Thursday's Connect with Catherine, and then everybody's doing that. So there was this flywheel that just powered our franchisees on. And I would say that, and we only went to a cadence of every other week on Connect with Catherine in September, and we're now at an every 4-week cadence, but we'll quickly go back to weekly if we need it. So franchisees were terrified, but got the support they needed. Likewise, we deferred royalties and ad fees for 4 months as Express did. And it's our job to continue to help them see the future and encourage them on the days that they get down, because everybody has down days. So our next question, and Harvey, we're going to start with you on this one. Were there any major system or operational changes you had to make in 2020 that you plan to continue in the future, and any changes that you may stop that you don't need anymore?
Yes, major changes. Some were in the works. Some were fast tracked to do even faster. So obviously, I think our marketing teams must have talked to each other, Catherine, because we did the every week Connect with our CEO. And that was something we did immediately. We had the live stream going back and forth with the live questions and the encouraging, and here's what's going on, and that share between the franchisees. While it was always in place, it became one of the most important things, is because one franchisee from the north would find out something they were doing, and we were able to sell it, and not sell it, but actually share it all across the network. As a staffing company, we are in the people business, and we always want to know the people we're going to be putting out on assignment. The best way to understand if Catherine will really show up is to interview Catherine face to face. That's been our motto, the way we've done it. We do part of it online, and then we bring you in live. When the state said there will be no live touch, no live anything, all of a sudden we went to a virtual interview. FaceTime, Zooms, MS Teams, whatever the other person had, we met them where they were so that we were able to actually have that virtual interview with them. It's very interesting to look at someone virtually and try and figure out if their driver's license will match the I-9 you're trying to fill out for them. But we did that. In fact, what it's done is it's shown us we can do that virtual interview on a nonstop basis and meet people where they are. Some people still don't want to get out. Some people don't want to be gathered, but they want to be able to work and do some virtual jobs. So we're able to keep that virtual interview in place. We had to close the doors, but now they're open. And we also limited lobby guests, so to speak, and now we're trying to get that up. We saw by the limit that we were able to focus on that smaller nucleus a little bit more, give them a more on one-on-one time. So I don't know that we'll certainly close the doors, but we know that we want to be able to focus on each individual as much as we can. Franchisees didn't stop, and I know I've said that, but they did everything they could virtually. We will continue to do all that we can virtually to meet people where they are. So Sean?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Harvey. You know, there's definitely a common theme to our conversations today. Our communication increased probably by 4 times to just help in this process. We were a little bit fortunate. We're actually, you know, we're technically a newer brand. We've been in a brand now for 8 years. And so we were a little bit lucky that when we started Payroll Vault, we leverage current technologies pretty well. So we've been using the Zoom training and technology platform for about 4 or 5 years. So it was a pretty easy adaptation for us. Our COO, Tricia, called us in one day and she basically said, everybody's going to go home and work from there for a while, and we'll kind of see how things go. And we kind of transitioned to a remote work brand. And we see that definitely continuing. But I want to emphasize a component to that that made it easy for us to do this. And we run a program called Framework for Success, and it's about us organizing ourselves. It's about communication, meeting as a team, delegating to each other, holding each other accountable, open communication, and that basically allowed us to transform into literally a remote business model by staying well connected with our team, with our goals. So we still met all of our goals for last year, but we also had to adapt to all of these new resources that we had to provide both of our to our franchisees and ultimately their clients. So I think that was kind of a lucky position that we were in, that we were really available to be adaptable to whatever we needed to do differently. We took a few less vacations last year, I know that, so I'm hoping that can change this next year, and we can get out and enjoy other company a little bit more. As far as what I think we might go back to, you know, I know our sales team at the client level is really looking forward to meeting with business owners. It's a great experience to, you know, walk into a business and see their operations and meet with the owners and really get to know them as individuals, kind of on that personal level. So we are definitely looking forward to more of that one-on-one conversation with clients and obviously getting together with our franchisees at conferences and things like that. So getting back to those normal things will be part of what we look forward to over the next few months. But I can honestly say, I think we transform our business model into something a little bit different that's more reactive, more supportive, and leveraging the technologies that we have today, which I look forward to. And I think a lot of times even the franchise owner candidates, they appreciate maybe spending a little bit more time in a virtual environment, even if you have to go to you know, a face-to-face meetings. I highly recommend maybe doing one or two more meetings pre-discovery day or after a virtual discovery day to really get to know your franchise owners and maybe their spouses and how they want to communicate. So I just think use this time as an opportunity to adapt a little bit if you need to, and then kind of find ways to just be, you know, supportive of your brand, leveraging these technologies. So Catherine, over to you.
Thank you. So we were very blessed from Fast Signs, and I'm also going to say an IFA standpoint that both Fast Signs and IFA were able to have their in-person convention before the pandemic last year. We at Fast Signs have 2 in-person events. We have our convention in January, and then we have an outside sales summit for all of our franchisees, outside salespeople, and then their sales managers, and most of those sales managers are franchisees. We have that every August. So we had to make that decision in about the June timeframe of last year that our outside sales summit would have to be virtual. And that just broke our hearts because we all know the power of being together and being able to hug each other and talk and see how people are acting, reacting, read a crowd, which you don't get to do virtually, right? But what we found by having that outside sales summit virtually is we doubled attendance because our franchisees have to pay for the T&E, the airfare, and the hotel for their outside sales professional to come. So that was kind of really fascinating. We never expected that we'd have an even higher, a double attendance. So that was a good learning from us. Now, we still want to go back to having that in-person outside sales summit, but we just very recently, like last week, made the decision to be virtual again in August of this year because we surveyed our franchisees 2 weeks ago and we said, are you comfortable sending your outside salespeople in August to our in-person event? Are you comfortable coming to our in-person event in August? And then there's also a component about, are you prepared from a expense standpoint to do that, to invest that travel and that T&E expense? And just over half of our franchisees said, I'm still not ready. I'm not ready to send my outside sales professional in August as I sit here in February, because it was February when we did this. And so as a result, we've made the decision to go virtual for this August because we had certain gates on our hotel and our convention center contract that we would have to meet. So that breaks our heart, But I think one of the things that we'll do going forward is we're going to get back to in-person events because they're so effective. But I think we're going to have a virtual component. And then that's going to be the yin and the yang, because will having a virtual component reduce the in-person attendance? So we have to figure out how to balance that. But we really learned that in many ways, virtual is so much better than nothing. We also have always had our business consultants doing in-person, face-to-face, toe-to-toe, belly-to-belly support with their franchisees, which of course we couldn't do. But what we found by going virtual with those is we can see franchisees touch them more frequently. We may not be touching them with a handshake, but we can be looking at them eye contact to eye contact and talking about important substantive things. So going forward, we're still going to get back to in-person visits and support, but we are going to also continue to use virtual so that we can have more touches during a year. We also pivoted on products and services. The same kinds of equipment that you can use to cut plastic or acrylic for signage, you can use to cut acrylic or even super thin acrylic, cut acrylic for safety shields and sneeze guards, even face shields from a PPE perspective. So our franchisee and intubation boxes, our franchisees made a bunch of intubation boxes and intubation shields to help protect healthcare workers, because there's a lot of spray of aspiration when you put intubation tubes down somebody's throat. So the pivot was interesting. Now, do I think we'll still be making intubation boxes next year? I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be a need. They've all been made already. The hospitals have them. The medical centers have them. But I just have to say, from a standpoint of, I was the kind of person that I didn't think you could manage remotely. I've always wanted to see my employees, and my office comfortably holds 130 people. And for the most of the last year, on a given day, there are 5 to 8 of us here, right? Not very many. Now, I do think a challenge that we're going to face, I'm going to face, I don't know if you guys are going to face it, but I'm going to face coming forward, is there's going to be a time where I'm going to want people back in the office. And some of our team have said, I don't ever want to come back to the office. I like working in my pajamas. They didn't say pajamas. I like working at home, right? And so there's going to be we're going to have to work through how we do that. And I haven't figured that out yet. But I think if you're not going to be back in the office a majority of the time, and I don't know what that is that 3 days a week? Is it 4 days a week? I don't know that we can afford to have an office for you. We'll probably have a bunch of hoteling desks that you reserve in advance, because I don't know that it makes sense to have all these offices that are in my building with nobody in them at all. But just lots of good learnings. But I think there will always be a virtual component now to what we do from conferences and conventions, and I think that will be a good thing for us. So Sean, you are up first on this one. How do you view the economic overall recovery of the franchising industry coming out of the pandemic once we finally get completely out of this thing?
Yeah, well, and before I jump into that, I want to emphasize a couple of things that you said, Catherine. Our conference, we did the same polling, which I think is important for everybody to do, is ask what you want to do. We had about a 2/3 response that said we want to get back together. It's not a big group, so we can obviously accommodate at the hotel a little bit easier. So I see us hosting our conference. And you mentioned the remote work environment. I agree. That's one thing that we have identified that we need to do a little bit better. And I want to mention this to everybody too, because remote workers need that one-on-one attention too. So find a little bit of time to do that. And even if you do go to a more remote work environment, I would highly recommend some sort of event, maybe monthly or quarterly, where you get together as a team. You'll still need that social interaction and a little bit of engagement, right? You still want to get to know your team and see how they're doing, and so you might have a few more touches in that remote environment. So I think those are excellent points that we're dealing with too as an organization. As far as the overall economic, it's actually, we've seen businesses close, which historically helping small business owners for the number of years that I have, it was a condensed time frame during this recessionary time. So we are going to see some business closures, and I'm sure a lot of us have already seen that. But what I also see coming out of this is a very aggressive business person leveraging resources, leveraging, like we're talking about, outsourcing, finding those things that are going to help in the recovery process. So, and rather than look at it as a year, I would definitely look at it as kind of a 2-year recovery period before things really kind of bounce back to a normalcy. And you're going to see a lot of changes that we see today that are going to happen. I mean, I think PPE, like in your situation, Catherine, there's going to be businesses that continue to use that on a regular basis for years to come. So there's going to be some adaptation like that in business models that are permanent. And so the overall economic, impact, the amount of money that's available, that's gotten us to this point, and being in the payroll services, and I know Catherine, you and I have talked about this. There's a lot of payroll credits out there that haven't been identified yet, and I was just reviewing the newest legislation with the recovery startup. So there's some new information that just came out recently with the recovery startups, and there's funds available for the ERTC for them now too, the employee retention tax credits. So I think the economic recovery is going to hinge on lending and availability of these credits, and making sure that businesses are properly positioned to move forward with the right resources. So overall, I'm definitely optimistic with the amount of resources available and the amount of help that's being provided with those. So I'm excited for the next couple of years, and look forward to seeing that happen. But the outlook is really good from my perspective as we bounce out of this.
Harvey, before you start, can I ask a clarifying question of Sean?
Please.
Sean, did you just say that the new COVID relief bill, the 1.9 trillion, includes tax credits for young companies that started up?
I know. So, and it's actually a very good, I'll send you the information today, but it is exciting to I've actually spent a little bit of time with a team deciphering this, and I want everybody to know that these new things are complicated, but then when you kind of peel them back, you're like, aha, this is really cool. And this is exciting to see, and I'm happy to forward you the information today, Catherine, so you can kind of dig into it. Yeah, I know, Harvey. Definitely, I'll send it over.
And I'm just going to say, we had franchisees new centers that opened after March of 2019. So they didn't have a full year. They couldn't get PPP. They could try for EIDL, but this is such great news. Everybody listening, this is great news. You got to get this information and share it with your younger tenured franchisees. Harvey, sorry for letting me get in the way there, but I just had to make sure I understood what Sean said.
Phenomenal information. Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it. So I'm going to start with the economic recovery by saying ditto to both of you. Our last live event with our franchise owners, we ended February 23, 2020. There was 2,000 of us at our convention, hello, hugging, celebrating, awarding. It was amazing. 2 weeks later, we're into March, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is crazy. So our sales summit that was supposed to be live in September was virtual. Our 2020 or 2021 actually convention, we really tried hard to do something live. Not enough. First of all, the location we had clicked, we said, nope, you can't come.
Right.
We're not going to be able to do it. It just wasn't going to work. In the 30 plus years that I've been with the company, to be able to do a virtual, all that many people, and watch people receive their awards and walk across the stage virtually was amazing. So to your point, Catherine, I think we'll still have a virtual aspect to our conventions when we go back live, but we still want that live networking so that franchisees can learn together. That is, to me, one of the most important parts of the economic recovery, is the fact that we don't stop the networking. We don't stop the conversations. We don't stop it, whether it's live or not. Franchising is the backbone. Franchise owners are the reason that franchising works. They are the economic recovery. So I see us coming out of it very well. To Sean's point, it could take a year or two. I don't believe that right now we still have the shields up between the interview and the interviewee, I don't think that plastic shield will come down very quickly. That means the PPE is going to be extremely important for the economic recovery. That's where I'm hoping that the government continues to focus, because that's where small businesses are and needed. If you think about it, and I'm quoting what either one of you would say, franchising is local, and that economic recovery is going to be a local thing. And we're seeing in our local communities, the franchisees that are just out there and doing it, they're helping that recovery. It's a gut thing. They entrepreneurs have it in their gut. I'm going to make it. And that's kind of the economic recovery we're seeing, is the nonstop. We're still here. Get out of my way. I'm going to make this work. I see it very bright. I don't see it overnight, but I see it very bright. And year and a half, we're going to be to a new normal, but I see us coming out of it very well.
And I also think the economic recovery post-pandemic is going to be good for all of franchising, not just business services. I know as I move around where I live here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, to see the empty suites, the empty facilities that had businesses in it, many franchised, many more independent, that are no longer there, is heartbreaking. But it's heartbreaking to have any business closure. But as I think about going forward, I think for all franchisors, I think we're going to have an increased pool of franchise candidates. We never had a slowdown. That's not true. The last half of March and April, we had a slowdown in franchise candidates. But what we found is, once we were able to prove we were essential, there were people who got laid off and they wanted to get in business for themselves. So we sold 30 franchises last year after the pandemic, right? And so I think there's going to be continuing to be that kind of interest of people who want to control their own destiny. I think it might, in the short term being 12 to 18 months, be easier perhaps for those franchise concepts that are B2B as opposed to B2C, or in B2C essential business kind of areas. But I think it's going to be positive. I think another positive, because sometimes you have to not just enjoy the thorns on a rose, but also the beautiful smell, is I think there'll be a decline in real estate prices that'll help folks that are either relocating or opening for the first time. But what I love about franchising is you have the power of the whole brand and everybody working together, and systems and procedures and all that gives you great competitive differentiation and staying power compared to independence. And I think that's just going to be viewed even more by franchise candidates, certainly by our existing franchisees. They're so excited. And I think it's going to be very strong. There's this built up demand, and I think it's going to be explosive. All right, next question. And let's see, Harvey, Sean. Harvey, you get to go first. Is there anything you see derailing any of these growth expectations for 2021, and any thoughts you have on how you might mitigate those things you are concerned about?
Well, I feel like I'm gonna name that tune. I can do that in one word, and then I'll expand it.
No, wait, I'm going to write it down.
Okay,
And
you write it down.
And we'll see if I'm right. Go, fire away.
Government. There you go.
There you
Okay,
go.
so we're in the people business. We put people to work. The government has been great at helping franchises, is helping owners, at helping workers with unemployment. If we could take a good look at that, when I get a great job for Catherine, I pick up the phone and I call and I say, hey, I've got this great job for you. It starts tomorrow. Here's the pay. Wonderful company. What time can you be there? We're hearing too often the workers saying, sorry, I don't need that job. I'm getting a check from the government. I'm good to go. That's not what putting people back to work means. That's not what helping people means. Am I against helping people? Absolutely not. That's what we're all about. We want to help everyone not only thrive, but survive. But there has to be a way with the government and a way with all the things that are going out that we're able to say, okay, here's some funds available to you. Here's some jobs. You need to go work as well. And we'll see if we can meld those all together so that we'll get the workforce out there working as much as they possibly can, and then still be able to help them. So government, legislation, laws, if we can work together to make that work. Wow. So, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, we're seeing an impact from a governmental standpoint, but not only, and I want to kind of emphasize something here. There's a federal government that we're all really paying very close attention to, but be real careful with your state governments also. You know, we're in Colorado, and Colorado just passed some new laws related to paid time off for employees. So administratively, things are going to get a little bit more difficult, and that could derail people from advancing. Even the PPP loan process can be confusing. These credits are confusing. They're changing. They're dynamic, and it's frustrating to keep track of all this. So definitely keep your you know, ears and eyes open to everything that's going on, because you're gonna have to leverage resources. And I think what's scary to business owners today is the amount of information that they have to digest. So you don't want to be too patient, because then you could miss out on opportunity, right? So you have to pay attention, but also don't be afraid to ask for help, and be a little bit creative with kind of your approach to things. So other than kind of those restrictions that you just discussed, Harvey, I think business owners in general have to be on their toes, and they need to be reactive, but they also need to be leveraging the resources that are out there. And to your point, Catherine, I think being a part of a franchise model, you have a competitive advantage today like no other time, because of that collaboration and support that you get as a group, as a collaborative group. So that's what I would kind of just pay attention to. So.
And my thoughts parallel yours, both of yours exactly. I have franchisees, Fast Signs franchisees, saying they've got job openings and they're not getting applicants, and or they talk to an applicant who says, well, I got my stimulus payment, you know, the federal government just added another $300 to unemployment payments, so I'm just having fun hanging out. I think that's an issue. If you can't hire people, it gets in the way of growing the business, certainly. And then from a government standpoint, my biggest concern, and it should be the biggest concern for everybody who's listening, is whether the federal government passes the PRO Act. As you should know, the PRO Act, PRO standing for Protecting the Right to Organize. Besides the PRO Act being labor unions' wish list of everything they ever wanted, just as an aside for every business in the country, one of the things you're going to have to do if a labor organizer or a union organizer comes to your business and says, give me your employees' personal data, you will be required, if this gets signed into law, to give them your employees' name, their home address, their home phone number, their cell number, their personal email address, any personal data that you have, to make it easy for the union organizer to contact your employees to try to get them to sign a card where there could be influence and coercion to make them sign a card, and you end up unionized, right? So that's for all businesses, but there are two things in the PRO Act that are directly targeted at the franchise business model. The first is the expanded definition of joint employer to include perceived or potential control, and the ABC test, and you have to pass all three prongs of the ABC test for your franchisee not to be deemed your employee as the franchisor, and there's not a single franchise that can pass all three prongs of that. So we, the IFA, are working very hard to try to get to try to get the bill not passed in the Senate, right? Because that kills it if the Senate doesn't vote on it. But we're also behind the scenes working very hard to get a franchise exemption. Who knows if we'll be successful? I don't think we will, because the labor unions want it to be easy to union organize entire franchise brands by just going to the franchisor. So I would say the thing that concerns me about the economic rebound, not just for B2B business services, but for all franchises, would be government and what happens with the PRO Act, as well as in various states. So Spencer, I believe you probably have some questions in the question area. Do you want to ask those questions of us?
Yes. And by the way, if anyone would like to submit questions, you'll have a little gray box that will say questions, and you can type those up and send them over. So first question is, are you finding that franchisees are needing more motivation recently as pandemic fatigue sets in?
Harvey, you go first.
It's a real thing. Yes. Not just franchisees, but family members, children, adults, everything. It is real. At the very beginning, people were up and well, we're all in this together. And then all of a sudden it kind of started to, you could feel it, you could hear it. So we instituted a, let's call the franchisees, a group of us, once every other week or so, and still texting, calling. So yes, there is a need to stay in touch and to give someone an outlet. People are used to people and they're not getting that connection. So we instituted something. I think we'll always keep that because we want that that touch. So it's real. Yes.
Sean.
Yeah, and just to be brief for more questions, absolutely. I think we're all going through that. The one thing I would share is that I've been really kind of proud of our franchise owners and collaborating together, asking each other for, hey, what's working for you? What's successful? How do I answer this question? So definitely encourage them to work together because you have to be a little creative right now and good ideas come from all places.
And I'm going to ditto say absolutely pandemic exhaustion, whether you're a business owner or just anybody else. I mean, there's no question. One of the things that I started doing the middle of March last year was going into the small studio that I have here and recording motivational videos for my franchisees. And so literally I have done 53 weekly motivational videos for Fast Lines franchisees. Then then a few weeks into the pandemic, the IFA saw some of mine and said, could you do that for the IFA? So I now record motivational videos for the IFA as well, that if you're a member, you're getting in different email newsletters. They're all available on the franchise.org website or on my YouTube channel. And then when we bought another brand, Nerds to Go, in September, I start doing those same kinds of things. So motivation is important. There are days I need it, in which case I just go to my YouTube channel and watch some of my own videos and remember what I teach people. What's the next question, Spencer?
Awesome. Question on technology in general. We talked a little bit about the virtual conventions and that some of this might stick around. So part one would be, which technologies have you guys found most successful in the virtual environment? And are those going to be the same technologies that are going to work as hybrid technologies whenever, we kind of partly go back to being in person, but maybe some people want to stay behind?
Sean, you go first.
Sure, and like I mentioned earlier, we've been using these technologies for a long time, and I agree they're going to stick around, and we've used them a little bit differently throughout the year. Two things that we did differently. We have 2 events a year. One's called an owners exchange, which is more of a one-to-one collaborative roundtable group, and our annual conference. And because we couldn't do those live, we spread them out over 2 to 3 months, and we brought in keynote speakers, kind of that motivational aspect. So I think you have the resources now to leverage this technology to really engage others and within a group. And I mentioned the Owners Exchange is a roundtable discussion meeting of the franchisors. With these technologies, you can have breakout rooms and have collaborative discussions and use them that way. So I would highly recommend that people start to look at those resources behind the scenes of some of them that we're using and use them to your advantage and for communication and education and even that collaboration component in roundtable sessions. So yeah, I see a lot of it being permanent.
Harvey.
One of the departments I'm not allowed in is the technology department.
However, you don't like me going back to mine either.
However, what I've seen on the other side as the recipient, wow, IFA was one of the first things I attended virtually, and that technology was we were able to see general sessions. We went to breakouts, and we went to a virtual expo show. So is it there? It has to be. I've seen it with IFA. I've seen it with ASA. We've used it. We were able to actually have people live on stage virtually as they were receiving an award and wave and smile and clap for them. Here's the deal. If there is a franchisor or a franchisee that's a technology franchisor, the world is your sales call. Go get it. Go tell us more, because technology is here to stay, and it's amazing what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to say yes to all of that. I mean, we implemented Ring Central, which uses Zoom for video, thankfully 3 or 4 months before the pandemic. That was just luck. Well, my chief information officer would say it was his brilliance, not luck, because it was part of his plan. But, you know, and we've done our virtual outside sales summit, our virtual convention that we had last month using that. And again, keynotes, breakouts, all that, round tables, networking, all of that. There's really good functionality, and that is going to stay. I will tell you that one of the things my team did, my events team, is we actually built a stage in our main classroom, which we're not using because we're doing initial franchisee training remotely, and put the whole stage behind. So all of our speakers were on stage, and it wasn't just that you saw my office in the background like you do now, but it looked like a big production. And I love the technology that the IFA used. That was really, really impressive, and it is definitely here to stay. Do we have any more questions, Spencer?
We do not. So thank you guys for presenting. And do any of you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share?
Sean?
Oh, no, just thank you, IFA, for the opportunity to educate and share these ideas. And obviously things are changing, so be aware of the resources out there, and send me an email if you need anything, and we'll be happy to send you the information that we discussed today.
Harvey?
Ditto, IFA, thank you. You have not missed a beat since the pandemic started, and appreciate all you're doing. And Catherine, your leadership, you're in year 2 of what was supposed to be not year 2. So thank you very, very much. To everyone listening, if we can help in any way, email us. If you have any suggestions, put it in the chat, let us know. But thank you all very much for the opportunity to do this.
And my closing remarks would be the International Franchise Association is here to support all of franchising, to protect, promote, and enhance franchising. If you have not given your US franchisee email list to the IFA for the Franchise Action Network, I encourage you to do it. The only way we're going to defeat the PRO Act is if every single senator in the United States is bombarded with emails from small business owners, i.e. your franchisees, telling them why this is bad for franchising and bad for business. How are your franchisees going to have access to make it really easy? They're going to do that by getting emails from the IFA with a link to a platform that they can easily customize communications to their senators or House members, whatever it is. And I would also encourage each and every one of you got to be active. Nobody likes politics. Everybody hates politics more today than they ever have. Politics is a contact sport. And if we're not talking to our House members and our senators and telling the stories, more importantly, if your franchisees are not talking to their House members, their House member singular, and their senators plural, because everybody has 2 of those, we're missing an opportunity to make a difference. The IFA makes it easy, but if you don't ask your franchisees to get involved, they're not going to get involved. Every time there's an issue, not only are my franchisees in the US getting the emails directly from the Franchise Action Network from IFA, I forward them with the intro from me and explain how it impacts their business if this thing happens. So I encourage each and every one of you to do that. We got to get active. That's it, Spencer. It's all up to you
absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you guys once again for speaking. If you're looking for more information on different sectors besides the business services sector within this report, please be sure to join us for another sector spotlight webinar. Topics, dates, and times are mentioned on the slide shown on the screen, but can also be found on community.franchise.org along with registration information. Just a reminder, this will be recorded and posted tonight on community.franchise.org along with a copy of the PowerPoint deck. So again, thank you all very much. Thanks to the speakers and for everyone that participated. Looking forward to seeing you at more of this series of webinars. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.